You are now entering the Honeysuckle Podcast.
Alrighty, so we're here with the Honeysuckle Podcast and Robert Hayman. Let me see if I can get this right. Director, actor, photographer, set designer. What am I missing?
I mean, what are you missing?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a writer.
Okay.
I do interior design.
Yeah.
I'm a painter.
Okay.
I create music.
Okay.
Anything pretty much in the artistic realm I dabble in and or do for a living.
Okay. What, take me back to early on when you were figuring out your kind of creative path. You know what I mean? Like when you were aware that like, I'm like this, the other kids are like this, and I'm so obsessed with like, you know, colors and shapes.
Okay, so I would say, there's Buster. I think we're gonna need to put Buster away.
Buster.
Look at that boy.
You're in the podcast, aren't you, Buster?
He's a cutie.
Yeah.
That's my baby.
I've never been kissed so often.
I know, right? He's a kisser for sure.
So we're back from the doggy break, and we were talking about the start of your artistic journey.
Yeah, okay, so I would say the start of my artistic journey was, I have 5 brothers and sisters,
Okay.
and they're all much older than me.
Okay.
So we're saying 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 years older than me. And so they had a wide variety, being 5 of them, of wide variety of music and musical interests, right? And I think music is a huge, wouldn't you say, inspiration to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think everybody's got a different path in. I think that we all enjoy music intrinsically as like human beings. I wouldn't say that like music for me was like that spark, that kind of aha.
Maybe not for you, but wouldn't you say that like pop stars are even bigger than A-list actors? They are.
Yeah.
You know, they have more draw, more power than, you know, an A-list actor would have. You know, I mean, Lady Gaga, Madonna. I mean, these people. So, and I think it's because of the music. Music, I think, taps into people's souls in a way that other art forms don't. Maybe film would be the only other. And then I think because with film, it's generally very obvious what the message is.
Yeah.
And it's clear and it's there. And I'm not saying that songs or music isn't like that. But I think that music is more of a, I don't know, it's like more of an abstraction. And because of that, I think our souls can respond to it in a bigger way. So music for me was a big part of opening my mind to a lot of different places to go artistically. So like it would be from my brother with their Rush 2112 album to my sister, one of my sisters with early Heart and rock and roll, right? And then to another sister who was Jesus Christ Superstar, Tommy soundtrack, Bette Midler. And so, you know, I found myself being attracted to things that other kids my age were not attracted to.
Yeah.
You know, like for my 10th birthday, I was asked what I wanted, and one of my responses was I want to go see Bette Midler live. And you know, my mother, I'm sure, was just like, huh? What? You know?
She probably wanted to go, so she's like, yeah, sure, this is...
Right, so when I was...
Keep going, I'm going to check this out.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. Okay, so yeah. So my sister had the soundtrack to Jesus Christ Superstar. And I was somehow drawn to it because of its operatic theatricality for some reason. And this was when I was 8 years old. And I did an improvisational dance performance for my parents to the overture of Jesus Christ Superstar, like in my bedroom. You know, I put on a robe and they sat on the lower bunk bed and you know, it was a show, and then I was behind the sheet, and I put the album on, and I came out and like danced real weird. And when it was over, my father sat me on his lap. This is at 8 years old. This is a country western singing, truck driving father. Very masculine, a very intense man, and he saw how, I'm sure, how weird, eccentric, and unusual his son was, and instead of rejecting it, embraced it, sat me on his lap when I was done, and said, "You need to take dancing lessons," because he saw a gift. And I began taking ballet, tap, and jazz for like once a week, and then the owner of that school recognized that I was prodigious when it came to ballet, and I then started going with a full scholarship. My mother didn't have to pay anymore.
That's incredible.
After about 2 months, my mother didn't have to pay anymore, and I started going like twice a week, 3 times a week. Then I became the youngest member of this ballet company, and I started training 5-6 days a week. So the first thing I was ever going to be in the arts was a professional ballet dancer, and I was on the track to make that happen. And I was showing signs of being exceptional at it, and so that's what I was going to be. And then when so that was like from 8 until I was 12, I was hardcore dancer. And then at 12, I did my first theatrical production as an actor, and was like, okay, this is better. I like this better. And so within a year, I started acting professionally, and did like a world premiere musical with all these amazing actors from New York that came in to do the show. And yeah, and so then acting became my thing, and then voice lessons, you know, classical voice lessons. So I had a subscription to Opera News when I was 15. I was, you know, so you get the idea. I'm starting to, you know, and then, you know, moved to Philadelphia, and, I mean, it's just like, where does life take you, and how do you get to where you are right now? I had a girlfriend before I had decided, and that would be not the right word, but in all honesty, I didn't know whether I was gay or straight or bisexual when I was 16. I really wasn't trying to label myself at that time. People would ask me, are you gay? Are you straight? Are you bi? And I'd be like, I don't know. Until I finally was like, okay, yes, I'm gay. And that was about when I was 19, when I just really, like, absolutely for sure was like, I'm never going to be with a woman ever again. I have no desire to do that. But when I was 16, we're talking about arts. Let me think. You do edit this, right?
Ish. No, but I mean, the idea is just that it's a rolling kind of conversation.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, no, you were talking about your creative path and how you'd moved to acting.
Oh, that's it. So I had a girlfriend for a time, and she was very beautiful. And she was this exceptional girl, valedictorian of her class, played the saxophone like you wouldn't even believe, extremely beautiful. We fell in love, and I was doing a lot of painting at the time, and Patrick Nagel and this Mel Odom, friend of mine, were inspirations to me. And so I was painting a lot of women and women's faces. And so my girlfriend said, I want you to do my makeup. I'm like, I don't know how to do makeup. And she said, just do what you do with the paintings, but do it with this on me. I'm like, okay. So I tried. And then we had a Polaroid camera with 10 pictures. And on the 10th Polaroid, the last one, she was flipping her hair a certain way. And the picture was just like, we both were like, oh my God. And that's when I'm like, oh my God. Let's do more. And so thousands and thousands of pictures later. And this is a time where you're shooting film. Yeah. So every roll costs money.
A lot of money. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when I say thousands and thousands of, she was my first muse. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I was teaching myself how to use an SLR camera, how to shoot, and what lighting and makeup and styling, because I was doing it all. So I've always done it all. you know?
Yeah.
And I've always been interested in fashion, and like, especially at that time, I started getting very into the designers, what's the difference, who they are, you know, this styles, photographers, who they are, what, you know, separates them. And so I've always been educating myself in that realm hard. So now, you know, when I'm shooting, you know, in my adult life, you know, years and years later, I'm pulling upon so many of those references. But that's kind of how I got started, was shooting my girlfriend. How I got started in the arts was ballet, and then that turned and morphed into, now I just, when people say, what do you do? I just say I'm an artist. And there's a new word I've come up with, iconographer. Not that I've come up with,
No,
but
I dig it.
you know, like, because that's what I do. I take
make
pictures.
icons.
Yeah, iconic imagery.
Yeah.
You know, unforgettable iconography, as a friend of mine says, Laura.
Yeah, no, I when people ask me if I'm a writer, I mean, I say I prefer, you know, nitty-gritty wordsmith, because it implies work. It implies hitting a sentence with a hammer, as opposed to just writer. It seems so esoteric. It's like, no, I'm a wordsmith. I'm in the blacksmith shop every day, beating on these words, because that's the real work that goes
Whether
into
you're a novelist or writing an article or writing a blurb, I mean, whatever. Exactly. A wordsmith, that's a good way. Yeah, people, you know, it's funny. People want to categorize what you do.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're the kind of person that can't be put into a category.
Yeah.
You go beyond that. You transcend category. And you're one of those people. And I think I am too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I think that, I mean, obviously, like, for like ease of reference for people, like, what do you do? You know what I mean? It's artists, because it's
easier for them.
Yeah, even in like one situation, especially when you're doing like three things. You know what I mean? Like the shooting a video. Most people don't know this. Shooting video and taking stills, totally different skill sets. You know what I mean? People were just like, oh, there's a camera involved. So I'm just like, I don't know. I'm a lens-based artist. But eventually it's
Have you ever heard that? I've never heard that before. A lens-based artist.
Yeah, a lot of people. Well, but
that's funny.
Because I think,
I mean, I get it.
Yeah,
That's just funny.
You know, photography. It's like, you know, people have a certain thing, but I mean, if you're doing large format pinholes on the moon, you know what I mean? Like, you're no longer really a photographer. You're a recorder of light. You're a lens-based artist. You know what I mean? I prefer to work with things that involve lenses, just for specificity, versus like I'm a painter or something like that. So talk to me about your painting. What's your process like? And I mean, I'm different every day, and it's evolved over the years. But like, what is painting like for you right now?
Well, when I paint, which isn't that much, I used to paint a lot more. I've done a few one-man shows of my work that I've always done well, which is really cool, because, you know, I'm an expressionist.
Okay.
When I'm painting personal work, I'm an expressionist, and so my paintings are, you know, a form of, it's kind of like a stream of consciousness, but with paint. And so I have certain symbols that I use that mean certain things to me that you'll find on some of my paintings. And there's like a universal kind of humanoid figure that lands in my paintings. I'm very inspired by two artists in particular, Francesco Clemente and an artist named Jamali. And so these two artists have a similar aesthetic when it comes to painting figures. They're similar in that they're very basic and primal. If you ask me, Clemente's work is primal. Anyway, and so, so I'm an expressionist, and I paint in that way.
Okay. Yeah. I think Rose about to walk in.
Yeah.
Hey. We've been shooting for a minute. Awesome. Check the audio. We're going to keep going. So the thing that I like to philosophize, you know what I mean? And the thing that I think about is when...
Is this supposed to be kind of blown out and green?
I don't know. Adjust accordingly. What is it that we do and why? You know what I mean? Like what I mean, it's like this you know, this strong magnetic pull towards a thing. And I don't know if it's an addiction to being in flow, that that amazing experience where it feels like your hand's on the third rail and time disappears, and you know what I mean? Like it's definitely drug-like, where like you keep coming back to that. But that's not it. I wouldn't say I'm addicted to making art either. So how do you explain that constant draw towards these creative things? Maybe even if you're explaining it to someone who doesn't have that, who isn't an artist, like how do you explain that?
Well, being that I do so many different mediums, that's interesting because I've asked myself that question, of course. Yeah. I've thought about that. Like, why do I do what I do? Why do artists create and make things? And I know that for me, I get a masturbatory kick out of turning people on and watching them respond emotionally to something. The most gratifying experience of that I've ever had has been when I've directed theater. And it would be very masturbatory because I would sit in the middle of the audience and I would go to, it's such an arrogant thing to say, but I would go to every performance.
Yeah.
Just because, look, I had spent a month and a half creating this art.
Yeah.
Now I want to watch people enjoy it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, of course, I actually prefer the rehearsal process, whether I'm acting in something or directing something. I love the rehearsal process and creating what they're going to see. You know what I mean? As far as the actors go, and even, with the sets and the lighting and the sound, that's the creation of it is great. But when you watch the audience respond and transcend, because I just feel like, like the first noble truth of Buddhism, there is suffering. Life is fucking hard. Life can get you down. Life can be depressing. Life can be a struggle, And it's like art can take you out of that. Even if it's like you're listening to a song and you're like, for 3 minutes, that song transcends your everyday life, puts you in a place where you are probably vibrating at a higher energy vibration where you should be vibrating most of the time. Yeah. But life gets us fucked up and our vibration gets out of whack and we don't vibrate in the right way. Art tends to pull that out of you, and it's like, so I make art and I'm drawn to doing it, whether it be a photograph. That's why when I take a picture, it's important to me for it to say something, or to make you feel something, or for it to be wacky, or for it to be shocking, or for it to be beautiful, like wow, something that makes you go, right? Because what's the point otherwise? Yeah. Then you're just looking at a picture, turning the page. Especially today in a world where we're inundated with imagery, pictures. I mean, people are always in their phones looking at images, and it's just like, again, that's why I always say, if you're gonna have a CD cover, if you're going to have a picture of yourself that's a promotional picture, which is a lot of what I do, is I take these iconographic pictures of people to try to make people go, oh, stop, arrest them for a second. And it's like, if you're not going to do that, well, then you might as well just stop what you're doing, because does the world need another fucking digital photo of somebody that's boring? You know what I mean? So I think that kind of answers your question. I do it to make people feel and to take them out of their fucking everyday life so they can just relax for a second, transcend their life, and go somewhere, whether that place be a scary place. Not that I generally don't make art that's scary. I mean, some of my work can be dark, but So yeah.
It's almost similar to comedy, what you're describing, which is this like the world's gonna be fucked up, but we somehow come into a situation we agree we're gonna laugh. You know what I mean? The point
of a comedy place, a comedy, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's for people to go there to have fun together. Yeah. That's true.
I think
that's why it's so funny, because you know what? First of all, I've always hated stand-up. Because it's so hard to make me laugh. Yeah. I have a whacked out sense of humor. If it's not vulgar, beyond vulgar, or childish, like say poop and I'll laugh. Yeah. I'm like a 3-year-old, or I'm like a dirty man. It's like, other than that, it's hard to make me laugh. So I generally don't laugh at stand-up comedians. But one of my very best friends is a stand-up comedian, and I've not been forced, but I've had to go to many and so it's interesting because you feel the vibe. Some people just sit there and they don't want to laugh.
Yeah.
Most people are there to laugh. Absolutely. And you're right about that.
That's the point of the alcohol.
And I
too.
love that. I love that you're saying that because I never really thought about that. It's a place where people go to congregate that want to have. I guess it's like a bar.
Yeah. No, I think bars are different. I think that
they're different.
That it's
there's not laughter involved.
Yeah, it's also
se.
well. I mean, it depends on your track record at the bar.
Sure.
I got laughed at a lot.
Why?
Just
I
kidding.
know you are. I'm kidding. I was gonna force you to answer that.
But I also think that it's similar to kind of like big budget shitty popcorn movies that everybody loves to hate on, especially in the very auteur film community.
Yeah, and I'm not like that.
But it's just like no, man, Independence Day is this shit. For
right.
about 2.5 hours, you forget about you're late on rent,
yes.
or that your health insurance is running out, or that
sometimes if something's popular,
yeah.
it doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah.
Or pandering to like the lowest common denominator. No, sometimes it's popular because it's really good.
Yeah.
And people forget that. It's like Katy Perry, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Actually, fuck off. Katy Perry's a genius.
Yeah.
And so is Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And they have great music that I can sing to in the car, and I don't give a fuck what you say. You're an idiot because you don't get it. Actually, you don't get it.
Yeah. No, if you haven't screamed Kelly Clarkson in your car at some point in your life,
Since you've been gone.
Yeah, you're
right,
totally
absolutely.
missing out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Motherfucker.
Go for it.
I need to know the story behind the Rhinestone Pipe.
Oh, the Rhinestone Pipe was a gift to Jay, or otherwise known as Laganja Estranja, whose apartment we are in right now. A gift from a friend of ours who's named Cosmia. Cosmia is a rhinestone artist. Cosmia I invited to be involved in a couple projects that we have done, including mostly the Daddy video that I directed for Laganja. Actually, Jay showed me some sunglasses and said, "Do you like these? We can use these. They're from a local artist." And not only did I like them, but I'm like, okay, what else do they do?
Yeah.
And I looked at more, and then I'm like, I need to have a meeting with this person. So we had coffee, and I said, hey, Cosmia, I want you to be very involved in this video because I love what you do.
Yeah.
And would you be willing to make this, this, and this? And they were like, uh-huh. And I'm like, great. And then I'm like, and you are so fucking cool looking. I want to put you in the video as well.
Love it.
I had to convince them to do the video, but yeah, they rock. And this was a gift for Jay from Cosmia.
Cool.
Yeah, handmade, hand-stoned. Just kind of cool, right?
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump into the obvious. Let's talk about cannabis. You know what I mean? Let's talk about cannabis and the creative process. What is just like we went back? You know what I mean with your creative journey? Like, what's your journey with cannabis?
When I was a kid, I had 5 older brothers and sisters, and 2 of them were bad.
Nice.
So Jackie and Stan were the bad ones.
Nice.
And Jackie smoked pot.
Nice.
And being the goody two-shoes little fucking freako that I was convinced it was of the devil. Not really of the devil. But I thought it was criminal and horrible. And every time I smelled it, I just thought how wicked they all were and how bad it was. And sure, I had that viewpoint until, I don't know, how old was I when I started smoking pot? I remember that a friend of mine, Katie Weicker, and I in high school bought a pinner, first time I ever smoked pot, from Colleen Shimko for like $5. And we took it. She was like one of my best friends at the time. And think about it, we're like in 10th grade.
Yeah.
And we buy this pinner for $5 and we take it, we park behind a shopping mall and then walk into the woods probably a quarter mile because we were so scared.
Oh, yeah. At least a quarter mile.
We were so scared.
Just to throw the feds off.
Right.
Yeah.
In case the FBI were watching us from the satellites.
And be underneath something so they can't see you from the helicopters.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's funny is, it was such a pinner, I honestly don't think there was any weed in it.
Right.
I think it was paper.
Yeah.
I think we smoked paper.
Me too for the first.
Right? And nothing happened.
Yeah. My first time was the same thing. I was like,
I'm
what
so
is this?
high.
Yeah.
I don't feel anything.
I don't feel anything. I know. First time I ever did mushrooms, I didn't feel anything.
It happens.
And I know, but it pissed me off because I wanted to hallucinate.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, so you had the usual. I feel like that's the usual. Everybody's first time they smoke weed, they're like, I felt nothing. I did not know what this was.
That's because I don't think I smoked any actual weed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm not sure if what I was smoking was
And then I
weed
had a
either.
boyfriend, David, who smoked pot, and I smoked some with him, and I'm like, oh, okay, I like this. And so it just became a thing where, and I've just been the kind of person who's never been ashamed and or embarrassed of either my sexual preference and or the fact that I smoke pot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's stupid.
Yeah. Oh,
people
oh
have,
my
you
God.
know,
It's some like 1700s shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kooky.
Yeah.
But it's the way people think, and sometimes, you know, I mean, it's changing, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, and I'm so happy about that. But yeah, so pot.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't have a really consistent experience until relatively recently. You know what I mean? It was the usual smoking with all the people and all the places or whatever. But it wasn't, it didn't become a part of like a daily practice or really like a big part of my life until relatively recently. And it's a game changer. You know what I mean?
Is it?
Well, I mean, for me, my experience was I got alcohol sober at like 25. Right.
And see, I've never been that person.
So
I never got into alcohol like most people do.
Yeah, I eventually kind of got back into it as a more social thing.
Alcohol or pot?
The pot.
Okay.
Where it was like, if you go up, I mean, sometimes like bars and parties and stuff like that, I mean, they're awful. And it's like unless you're drinking. So you're like, I'm at a place like 45 minutes into it. I'm just like, I would pay you $1,000 to let me go home. You know what I mean? But then it's like, okay, like loosen up, socialize a little bit. You got to be here anyways. Mm-hmm. And nothing crazy. Just smoke like half a joint.
Sure.
And then kick it, and that was so much better. And then when I started painting, that was a huge part of my process. Something that came naturally to you, maybe. You know what I mean? I had to kind of learn that, which was this zero filter. Zero filter. You know what I mean? I would just smoke weed, turn off all the filters, and then just everything that was the first thing that came to my mind and just put down as fast as possible.
Which is expressionism.
Yep.
Yep.
And
cool.
they've been super hand in hand. But I don't think I would have gotten to that place as quickly as I did with painting. Had I not been, smoking weed or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have that much power in my life. People want it to have a lot of power in my life, especially people that are into, cannabis activism or whatever. It's like, oh, weed, blah, blah, blah. Like you just said, it was a game changer. It wasn't for me. I mean, it really wasn't. I mean, I just see it as an enhancement.
Yeah.
And it's something I do because I like the way it makes me feel. But is it really that different than how I feel soberly? Not really. Could I absolutely go without it? Yes. Do I on a regular basis? Yes. I mean, since knowing Jay and being best friends with Jay, who is a big pot activist, Jay gets weed sent to her almost daily. The amount of weed that I'm just given is like, I don't have to buy it anymore, hardly ever. I mean, maybe once every 2 months we buy something. I do smoke regularly, sure. But I don't know. I mean, creatively, everyone's like, oh, creatively, I'm like, really? I'm like, I feel, it's like, it's kind of like alcohol in a bar. It's like, if you can't have fun sober.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Or need the weed, or need the coke, or need whatever to have fun. I feel sorry for you. Well, then something's off in you.
And you should know that.
It needs to be an enhancement. It's like when people say, oh, I get paranoid when I smoke weed. And you hear that. I mean, like, honestly, 5 times out of 10 people that, have an issue with weed, that's what they're going to say. And I always say, okay, well, pot enhances the senses, and what's the word that it blanks the senses? It
like anesthetizes, like numbs.
The absolute opposite.
Like opens them up.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's a word, and
Okay.
I'm not thinking, but enhances, basically. Intensifies. You know, so it's like, if you get paranoid when you smoke weed, you're probably paranoid before you smoke the weed.
Yeah,
And
you
this
just
is
didn't
just
know
making it obvious that
Yeah.
you're so yeah, I always say, just like it's important, in my opinion, if you're not going to be sober, if you're going to do something to alter your sobriety, do it in the right environment, and do it because you can handle it and you know that you can.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people that have smoked friends' weed that's really strong, and they sincerely think that they're tripping or
Yeah.
they're going to have a heart attack, and I'm always like, it's okay. You're probably not going to have a heart attack. You're not tripping. Nothing was mixed with this.
Yeah.
You're just strong weed. You're not used to it. It's
Yeah.
okay. Just keep in your mind, I'm on a drug.
But, you know, I do feel like that's something that, you know, a lot of people in the cannabis community maybe could be a little bit better about. Like when I'm giving cannabis to someone, I'm pretty careful. You know what I mean? Like I will be like, hey, this is gonna be about here. You know what I mean? And if that's great,
It's just so hard.
Yeah. But I mean,
to
like
quantify what you just said, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why I don't like edibles. I don't do edibles. My husband does.
Yeah.
I don't do edibles because I'm not going to be able to gauge what that's going to make me feel like if I eat even the portion you're recommending. I don't know what that's going to feel like.
Yeah.
And so I
It's
always
worth
say,
learning that.
and that's why, and it's hard to learn that because even when they're making it, it's hard for them to even gauge.
Yeah.
You know, and so what I say is, you can give someone strong weed and just say, sip.
Yeah.
Little bits, just a little,
Yeah.
just a little, and just keep doing that until you reach a place where, and then if you start to feel, then stop. You know what I mean?
And then give it about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Just relax.
use your fucking head.
Yeah.
Have common sense.
Yeah, but I mean, I do think that, like, you know, people like us are ambassadors of sorts for you know, a plant like this that can do things like this, and I think that you do have to be careful. You do have to say something like that. Sip on this for a second. You know what I mean? Like,
I sip on weed, all the time.
yep.
When I do cocaine, same thing.
Yep.
I will do little teeny bumps, and that's it.
Yep.
That's not true. It's not that I've never done full-on lines. I have, but generally speaking, if and when I ever do decide that cocaine is appropriate for the evening, when the stars align and all the friends are perfect,
Yeah.
the environment's just right, and I'm like, okay, this could enhance this. This could be fun.
Yeah.
And then I'll just little bips, little TikToks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
But I
it's
think,
when people just go and then like, and you're like, well, you're too
Yeah.
much, and it's like it just becomes gross,
Yeah.
and dark and weird.
I think that shows, I don't know, maybe a maturity as a person who takes drugs, because I think it's the same thing with psychedelics. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if I get new acid, I'm trying a hit.
Yes.
That's it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm gonna write it out all day.
And if you do anything else, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, this puts me in roughly this ballpark.
Right.
I don't know exactly what anything's gonna be, because
No.
that world you don't.
And it's always risky, a little risky.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm more and more into psychedelics. As plant medicine, they've been incredibly helpful in my own life. I think that could be a tool that loved ones who I know or people I care about could also use in their life. But
Yeah. And
What do you-
I'm so weary of psychedelics. Ugh.
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I admire and respect those people who go, oh yeah, we're gonna do mushrooms tonight. You want to do some? And I'm like, no.
I'm not.
That's okay,
I'm
or,
not
you
into
know-
that world though. I think that.
Well, what do you mean by psychedelic? You mean acid?
Yeah, no. I just mean that, like, I think that there's a difference between, like, the recreational use of it, where people are almost using it like a party drug. And then I think that there's a more, like, shamanic,
I know,
human,
but you know what?
historic-
You're gonna get people that talk about the shaman. You know, it's like absolutely there's a place for that.
Yeah.
And that is a reality.
Yeah.
But I find, especially living in Los Angeles, like I have a friend who does ayahuasca almost every weekend.
That's a bit much.
Well,
Yep.
he would tell you that it's not. And he honestly, outside of that aspect of him, I mean, he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's really cool, and I love him. And so this obviously works for him. I do think it's excessive. I think with any drug, it's like all about not being excessive.
Yeah.
Like we said, sip on everything.
Yep.
At least that's my
Yeah, no, I
philosophy.
totally agree with you.
But I will say this. People get too new agey when it comes to like, it's like, oh, okay, so you can drink the alcohol for fun. Mm-hmm. Right? You can like go to the bar, and that's, of course, and, I mean, it's a good excuse. I mean, look, people enjoy being since the fucking,
Yeah.
I mean, since
I mean,
forever.
I mean, it's use. I think that alcohol has a more narrow use than I'd originally thought. I think it's kind of like a blow-off, steamy kind of thing.
Well, remember, it will numb you.
Yeah, but I do.
It's a depressant.
I do think that there's a difference between cannabis and alcohol, and I do think that there's a difference between psychedelics and alcohol.
Well, of course.
I think that
Yeah.
the more planty things have more to give us than an alcohol experience
Yeah.
does.
But you know what I mean about
Yeah.
people being all so new agey and
Yeah.
and the whole, it's like, I don't know. It's like, do I need to have some sort of psilocybin-based experience to have an enlightened epiphany? No. I don't. I just have to be fucking real with myself.
Yeah.
People run so fast and so far away from their true selves that to really fucking, and that's what those drugs do. They kind of smack you right into yourself again, where you have to look at yourself because you're in this weird place where you can't help but be self-contemplative.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't need to do that. I mean, I can be honest with myself without it.
Yeah.
And have epiphanies without it. No, I use those kind of drugs for recreational purposes.
Yeah.
And see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
I'm not saying you are either.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's like it could so easily be misconstrued.
Yeah.
That you're like, well, some people use them for recreation and then some people use them for the enlightened shamanic reasons. And I'm like,
But
well,
I think
there's something really cool about using them for recreational purposes.
I agree, and have done it a bunch and with friends, and it was amazing, and it is a great thing. But what I'm saying is that like there is an intention going into something that's as jarring as a psychedelic experience. You know what I mean?
And I'll be interesting. I'm honest with you. I've never had an exceptional experience on a psychedelic.
Yeah. But that's, what?
I've done acid, I've done mushrooms.
That's just...
And I had much more of a transcendent experience on ecstasy than I ever did on any of these other drugs.
It's just like cannabis. It's so person to person. That might be your psychedelic experience for the rest of your life.
Chemicals.
You know what I mean?
And everyone's different.
Yep.
I agree with you 100%.
And I've had experiences on cannabis that rival psychedelic experiences as far as like what was going on with me and like where I was.
It's all about the stars aligning and where you're at in that exact moment.
Yeah.
That's why I say it's like, look, if you are prone to getting paranoid, well, smoke with me in this environment, not around those people who you don't know.
Yeah.
You're doing strong weed in public around people you don't know. You're probably going to get self-conscious.
Yep.
You're wondering what they're thinking about you.
I remember those.
Right?
Like when people are laughing.
Whereas if you smoke with me,
me,
you're not going to... I'm going to make sure you don't worry about what I'm thinking about you. You're going to know that I don't care. You're going to know that I just love you and I want you to have fun and I'll be there for you if you get weird and, you're going to feel okay about it and feel good, safe. Yeah, I think you have to feel safe.
Yeah, no, that's a
or
big,
it fucks with your trip.
It's a big part of it, but also setting your intention beforehand. I think, I want to have fun.
Yeah.
Right? That is an intention in itself. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And I think that they're really weird tools. You know what I mean? That can be used to accomplish a thing. And I think that I can't help but agree with Timothy Leary and just the thought that like if most people in America had had a psychedelic experience in their life, I don't think we'd be dropping the same amount of bombs. I don't think that we'd be setting this shit on fire.
No, I think you're probably right.
And clearly the people who have made it a Schedule I drug at threat of lifetime prison sentences also thought that same thing, that this would change people. The way that they see things and the way that they approach things, and we don't want that. So let's make it as difficult to access as possible.
Have you ever heard of Jack Kornfield? I believe that's his name. Is it Cornfield? No, watch, it's not Cornfield at all. It's something else. But I think his name is Jack Cornfield. And he made it part of his life's work studying the effects of psilocybin.
Yeah.
And he would take mushrooms in Mexico and see things. And I've often wondered, knowing that you have a large brain, and there's lots of things that we don't understand about the brain.
Most of it.
And a lot of there's got to be a reason for its existence. And so maybe, and I thought this is very possible, that maybe these genetically stored memories can be unlocked by these drugs because they will affect the serotonin and the chemicals in your brain a certain way, which just kind of opens that up to your consciousness.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, I'm seeing things, I'm having visions, and it's funny because like if someone could actually like know this, which and say those visions are actual memories. It's very Avatar-like.
Yeah.
I mean, but I love it, and I think it's quite possible. And it's like some of what my science fiction writing delves into is unlocking. It's all brain stuff, generally speaking. Like I have a screenplay about a guy who translates what the dolphins are saying.
Love it.
And he cracks the code, and now he has this dialogue with this pod of dolphins. Like he's sitting there. Did you ever see Contact? Jodie Foster, and she's petitioning these big companies to fund her project, and she's on. She feels she's on the cusp of something, and she needs this money. So that's what he does, and he's like, I'm on the brink of cracking the code, of being able to actually communicate language with dolphins. And nobody was like, they think he's a crackpot, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, fuck. He's like, just like she was. And he goes to the beach, cracks a beer, puts his headphones on, and starts using different algorithms to see where is, and then boom, click. And he starts hearing the words from the pod that's 50 feet out that he's been trying to communicate with for years. And now, boom, it's happening. And he starts putting in his laptop, and he's able to talk to these dolphins. And so my point is my science fiction stuff tends to be about unlocking things with the brain, because that's really the next step in our evolution technologically. And
well, that's what I love about the dialogue that comes eventually when you get involved with psychedelics, which is just, you described to me something a year ago, I would have said, poppycock. You know what I mean? Hidden memories in our DNA, all this kind of stuff. But when you get involved in psychedelics, because there are so little real answers, you know what I mean? You just have to be open up to the idea of, you might be right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we could be, here's another, common trope in this, is that consciousness is actually an innate part of the universe, like the speed of light or what an electron does, right?
Definitely.
And that we are not inventing it in our head, but we are simply tapping into what is a natural element outside of us.
Yeah.
And that's a real valid conversation. You know what I mean? When you start getting involved with psychedelics and you start seeing life and death and things morphing into each other, and you've got this brain that seems so practical. I'm able to go outside and drive a car right now. But when you get involved in those things, I mean, you genuinely might be going to different dimensions.
Yep.
Like your existence might be going to dimensions that we're not able to experience in our day-to-day life or are unaware that we can experience.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that as even like a real-life conversation that Harvard scientists are having with each other, which is all of this, just like we don't know. We have no idea. You know what I mean? And it's like, cool. I like being in the place where we don't know. Similar to art. You know what I mean? You just walk in with a question mark. I mean, there is no knowing anything. You're not going to go in and make 1 foot of a music video.
Okay, so getting back to you, what's the word when you blah, 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 your religion, what is it called? I forget, what's the word? Just,
Convert?
Yes, convert.
Yeah.
You're converting to Judaism.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm an agnostic. What you're talking about right there is basically being an agnostic, in that an agnostic does not answer the question. They know that they can't answer the question, and that's okay. So in other words, where do we go when we die? I don't know.
Yep.
Why are we here? I don't know.
Yeah.
What's the meaning of I don't know?
Yeah. I would say I am
So
solidly agnostic.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. So you really, it's like, so for example, I did Fiddler on the Roof, right?
Love it.
And it was a great production of it. I was very lucky to be in this production of it. It was spectacular. And I got so into Judaism because 80% of the cast and the director were Jews. And so I was learning, and because Fiddler on the Roof is about tradition, the first song in the show is called Tradition.
Right.
And these traditions and this culture I found so beautiful and so interesting and ancient and wonderful. And I'm like, I wanna be a Jew. I wanna be Jewish. And I really did. I wanted to be Jewish. And but I couldn't truly ever be anything because I'm truly agnostic.
Yeah.
So I can't say that I'm a Christian. Do I say Christians are wrong? No. Maybe that is the story. Maybe Jesus is the Son of God, and if you're not a Christian, you're going to hell. Maybe that's the truth. Maybe Buddhists are right. Maybe Krishna. Maybe, who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. And I honestly think that if we were told the answer, it would be like, you've heard of Joseph Campbell. Okay, so Joseph Campbell made his life's work comparing and contrasting
Mythology.
the world's religions or mythologies. Same thing. Because that's really all they are. What is Christianity but a mythology?
Of course.
Of course.
Yes.
Right.
That's
Okay.
Foremost what I think those religions exist as is stories.
Right. And there's stories to allow us to deal with that first noble truth of Buddhism, the struggle of life. And this makes us go, okay, I don't have to worry so much about what happens when I die, because that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Or this is why I'm here. Oh, okay. And, whatever. And so what I find unfortunate about religions, generally speaking, is that it straitjackets you sensually.
Oh,
You're ashamed and you're supposed to feel guilty of enjoying so much.
How your body was built.
Sure.
Essentially.
I mean, you're talking sexually probably at this moment, but I'm talking about just like a lot of things, really, if you think about it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, some people think that the dark should be celebrated, and there's a part of me that agrees. Like, I like Marilyn Manson. Do I think he's a one note? Yes. But
It's a great note.
But he's exactly.
great
But he's a
note.
very good on that one note.
Yep.
He's the best at it, actually.
Yeah, 100%.
In my opinion.
Totally
I mean,
agree.
I prefer his music videos over most artists' music videos. I love his music. I love his whole thing.
Yeah.
But again, it's like Quentin Tarantino. Okay, he's also a one note, in my opinion. You know what you're getting when you get a Quentin Tarantino movie. It's probably going to be a glorification of violence, crime, some sort of darkness. He's going to glorify it, edify it, make it beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's a place for that.
Yep.
As an artist, I don't want to be that.
Yep.
I don't want to be one note.
Yep.
I want to show and reflect both the dark and the light. So I want my work sometimes to be bright and white and light and beautiful. And then sometimes I want it to be, whoa, that's dark and creepy. But I want to do both. Because I don't want to be a one note. And especially if I'm going to choose a note, I would choose positivity over the negativity. I often wonder why artists it's probably for the money, or I feel bad for them if they're really only drawn to that dark side. It's like, really? That's okay. And then it's like comedians that are focused on hate comedy.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you make your career a career of being negative and having it's like boxing. I don't believe in boxing or extreme fighting. I think it's horrifying.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so fucking ancient Roman. Don't we look at the ancient Romans and the Colosseum and the gladiators and think they were fucking crazy? Watching people do that to each other. It was a different mindset that we can't relate to. Because
or maybe we can.
Well, exactly. It is tapping into something primal.
Yeah.
And I say we should be more enlightened than that. And to intentionally tap into the pain of another living creature and get kicks out of it is something to be questioned. Like you said, hostile, right? I wanted to talk to you about that. So, Ronit, right?
Yeah.
So there's one scene, right? Okay, so I've always said I hate Quentin Tarantino. Not I hate Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
I love Quentin Tarantino. He's a genius. I'm not always drawn to his work because of the dark edge that he has to it. Sometimes it's too much for me. And I've always said, oh, one note, la la la. I will never glorify violence and glamorize it. And then the first really screenplay I ever write totally is I'm glamorizing violence.
You gotta go.
I'm doing it, and it's like, okay, note to yourself, Robert, don't be so judgmental, you know. But my point is that there's one scene in particular in a film that has always so disturbed me that I thought, wow, I mean, I hate that this was made, yet kudos to the director for making it, because boy did he make, and it was in one of the Hostel movies, and I want to say it was like 4. And it's a scene where this girl has a crossbow, and they're betting or on and being able to tell the people how to kill the other people in the little vignettes in the rooms. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think that was 4.
And the girl comes in with the crossbow and like just shoots this guy a bunch of times, and it's intense and so dark and scary. And I thought, okay, when I do my horror version of A Christmas Carol, I need it to make me feel like that. Because if you're going to go see a horror movie...
it should be fucking you up.
It should be fucking you up.
Yeah.
Or what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of... Let's segue into... Let's segue into your current projects that we can have people looking out for.
So I have a book that I'm doing with Laganja Estrada.
Awesome.
It's called Muse Me. Okay. So we have a YouTube series called Muse Me, which every episode is a different photo shoot.
Oh.
And so you see, like, I'm inspired by different artists and photographers, and I create a conceptual fine art fashion photography session that we do, and that's called Muse Me.
Awesome.
Okay, so I've had many muses in my life, but as far as how many times I have worked with somebody, Jay is number one. I mean, like we've done so many shoots together. I really don't even know what the number is.
Yeah.
And so I have such a huge portfolio and a body of work that is really beautiful. And so right now, that is as of yesterday, my literary agent is selling the book, and so it's with a bunch of houses right now. There's one in particular that I hope takes the book. So that's a project that I'm working on.
Amazing.
Is selling this book. I'll know within a couple of weeks. And so that's going to be called Muse Me, Laganja Estrada by Robert Hayman, one drag queen, one photographer. And then it's just the body of our work. So that's something. I have a theater company that I started called the Hollywood Stage Company. And I'm about to stage the second production of the theater company. And it's funny because I'm drawn to A Christmas Carol. I always have been. And I'm going to do a theatrical production of A Christmas Carol for the blind. So it's going to be theater for non-sighted people. Okay? So, but it's going to be more than just a play reading.
Correct, yeah.
Okay? So when you walk in, it's going to be in the round. There's going to be Christmas trees surrounding the seats. The actors will be performing in the center of a circular space with the chairs, the audience all around you, and the Christmas trees, so you get the smell.
Yeah.
Right? And then they'll sit down, and then those sighted people will be given masks. And so by the time we start, no one can see. And then it's all about us walking up, maybe touching you, scaring you. You know, like you're sitting there and you don't know someone's going to be there, and it's like one of the ghosts, you know. And I want it to be scary, you know. So I'm doing that in December. I'm hopefully going to be working with 2 organizations, with the Braille Institute of Los Angeles as one of them, which is exciting. So that's my second production with the theater company that I started. So there's that. I'm going to be shooting Laganja's next music video, which I'm excited about because I'm going to do something I've never done before. The last video we did was called Hayman, and that we did using a lot of green screen, which I had never worked with before. Yeah. So I took it as a creative challenge to work with it in a way that I don't see many people using it, right? Yep. And so this next idea is I want to do a one take. I've done one takes but not like this. because we're going to be like walking downtown, like a portion of downtown, and Laganja will come in contact with a bunch of different characters in her little walk, and then there'll be like a dance break where like the people will just come out of the woodwork and start dancing behind her, and that's something I'm about to go into production with. I have just been signed on with a cosmetics company called Lorella Cosmetics, and I will be doing their promo campaign shots for the new makeup that they come out with monthly. So every month I'll be shooting a campaign for them, depending on what palette they're shooting. And so I'm excited about that because they've basically given me a lot of creative freedom. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to be directing some commercials for a local, well, I shouldn't say local, there's a lot of local things in LA, but it's a sex product company that sells, like, with the bent towards gay men. Mm-hmm. So they have a numbing throat spray.
Love it.
They have like THC lubes.
Yeah.
And like, all this stuff. And I'm going to be making like 5 little mini commercials that are going to be hysterical and hilarious.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to doing that too. And so that'll be fun. Other projects, I don't know, I'm trying to think. We're hoping to sell Muse Me. Mm-hmm. Right now we're in talks with 2 different TV platforms. So we'll see. And if that gets picked up, then we'll do a 3rd season, but we'll have a production behind us, which is going to be a different experience for us doing that.
Well, that's a lot.
That's a lot,
Yeah,
I
that's
guess.
a lot.
Yeah? Okay, good.
And where are people best to find you at?
Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, Robert Hayman.
Great.
Yeah, easy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
This was a blast.
I talked a lot.
Yeah. No, but that was exactly it. Yeah. No, that was a great conversation.
Good.